Good afternoon. Good early afternoon. Hope everyone's doing well. It is a great Tuesday. What is it? Possible 2 for 2 Tuesday. What some other specials they have on Tuesdays? No, IHOP was the best because in Blacksburg, for Show Your ID, it is half off for students. So yes, Tuesday is historically a great day, and hope everybody is. Wow, it seems so dark today. But I hope everyone is doing well. Oh, it's because I have mine turned down. My brightness is down. That's why it looks dark. But yes, it's a beautiful day. Nice and blue sky. Sun's out. And it's just a good closer for a nap. I am a little tired, but it's a good day, and I know that I'm going to sleep very, very soon. I'm going to sleep so soon that I got cookies, and I got cookies from the cabinet, and forgot that until I pressed start broadcast. So yes, I have cookies here, and I'm just ready to go to sleep, and I'm not really keeping track of everything all that wonderful. So let's get going. Now, one of the things that I found, what I really want to do today, let me start here, is I've opened a lot of stuff over the past several weeks and just haven't looked or touched them, or I get on here and say I'm going to, oh, this is interesting. Oh, yeah, 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 interesting. And I've partially read some stuff and partially gotten what the point was, but bottom line is there's some stuff on here that I opened and I don't really remember why I was opening them up. There's one recent thing that I just saw, but let me start with the one I think I've talked about before, because this one's kind of short. Interesting, but short. This global star sat-fi, like I said, I think I've talked about it before, but essentially sat-fi, think Wi-Fi. So if you are in the middle of nowhere, and of course you have some juice going to it, it picks up internet connection from satellite. Excuse me. I'm trying to think what it complicated, but for areas, it says in the article, and this is on Wired.com, that in an area where you don't get any type of 4G, 3G edge networks available, this is what you could use. This could essentially give you access to your email. Facebook and Twitter are built in to make it easy to access, but it's looking like it's a very small, very limited. They don't really say much about the connection speed. I suppose I could go to the official website and look it up, but based on the fact that it's prioritizing apps like Facebook and Twitter, I'm thinking that they're not really looking for they're looking for functional items. And, if you're in the middle of Africa on safari and you want to say, hi everybody, I made it to Africa, in this particular area there's no signal of any type, but hey, I'm safe, here's a picture, and you can post it to Facebook. That's pretty useful. If in the article it mentions Twitter's best use cases. Hold on, let me read the whole sentence. When you consider one of Twitter's best use cases as a form of emergency communication, to tell the world about a fire or flood or some other disaster, when there are ways of getting the word out. That they even say it makes perfect sense. The Sat-Fi included it. It just is a local area network from space that they've put into what essentially the setup looks to be a little challenging. This looks to be very early model. This could change the world. So this could absolutely the Big Bang program's energy needs. See, the issue with this, distraction. All right, but it looks like it could be very useful anywhere. I mean, this looks to be something militaries have had for quite a long time, or at least the United States military. But you need an internet connection, you need a way to get the word out. This could do it for you. The Global Star Sat-Fi. Pretty interesting, pretty needed. I can finally close this tab. I know what it's about. Yay. Okay, this is one that I just came across when I sat down. I didn't know they'd already ruled on this, and it's kind of embarrassing, I guess. What the ruling was. Now, it's hilarious because the recent studies showing how any type of political decision, or maybe not political decision, but any type of decision in our government, at least in the United States, I think they said 98.9% of the time, something like that, it followed maybe it's probably higher, but the main thing is that all of the decisions follow the interests of companies, corporations, and essentially big money pools known as individuals who can have freedom of speech, as our laws call it. So the main thing is that they have ruled that. Hold on, let me just read it. Well, this is great. Well, first of all, this is from Time.com. I'm surprised I'm on Time.com, honest with you. But on Monday, the Supreme Court ruled in a 5-4 decision that the government cannot require certain employers to provide insurance coverage for birth control if they conflict with the employer's religious beliefs. The ruling on Burwell versus Hobby Lobby Stores, Inc. is not only a blow to the Affordable Care Act, but also, critics argue, to women's rights. I feel like there's so much you could say right here. First of all, it's very well, it's unfortunate that just on the surface it is only a decision for the support of um, business over individuals. And I just read this and it just hit me again. I'm just surprised. I am so surprised, and it's difficult to articulate how this doesn't seem, I shouldn't say real, but I mean, okay, from one perspective, if you are a religious organization and you then form a business, that business you would expect to be held to the standards of business, not see, you go to freedom of speech and freedom of religion, which is, you should have freedom of religion. But, I mean, religious businesses. Well, what are some other religious businesses? Because I think they give an example of a couple of organizations that are religious, or based on religion. Okay. Well, I hope you're catching the little headlines that goes down. I thought I remember reading where they gave a couple of other examples of religious organizations, and you know, these are general ones like Catholic colleges and hospitals. Those are public service. Well, maybe not the colleges, but hospitals. They still fall under the same, as I understand it. I mean, Bon Secours in Richmond area here is a faith-based uh, organization. So I really, I don't know, because I believe that they're still held to the same standard where they wouldn't, in theory, be able to just send someone out who's actively dying, or um, and they don't have coverage of some type. So it's interesting that they could fall under those type of guidelines. Possibly, I could be wrong, and not under, well, everyone has to be treated as though they're working for any other business, because now you're setting a different standard for, well, you're adding things onto, but you're setting a different standard for faith-based organizations. And this is very interesting because I'm not sure what the company really gains from it, because this puts the weight onto the insurance companies. And I really, I'm really wondering what what they gain, because they're just saying they're not going to pay for it. So obviously they're going to save a lot of money, and that's a benefit for them. But then technically, let's say that there were only individuals who complied with this, and they had a surge of employees, um, having children, and then they're having to pay. Well, they're having to pay. They'll have to pay their own insurance. That will go up, but probably the cost of the company will go up also. So, I'm I'm really trying to find what angle this really, as a business. I mean, you're supposed to have goals, ethics, standards, and core values in an organization. And I think it's great for them to be faith based. And I think a lot of organizations have benefited and shown that the world can benefit from those type of goals. So I'm not really sure if this is one of those issues where it's if you have a let's just say there was a one of these types of birth control that the that had the particular compound or the particular drug that young ladies used for uh, cycle regulation, and that was the only way that that particular person could get that drug for the time period that they use it for. And now they're saying that under those circumstances, it is completely okay to say no to that person. I can only get it from that way. And that is kind of outside of the issue of they're equating it to straight abortion, these particular types of birth control, and it's against their religious beliefs for that reason. And if you're pursuing you're pursuing, I suppose, would be an ethical purity based on your own beliefs, which of course you can respect, but you're I mean, you're making it a one size fits all solution, as though every single human on the planet is not genetically different and could have different issues and different health histories and different other issues. And maybe it's the organization's prerogative, and it's a, a an obvious truth that with businesses, the number one goal of the business is to only gain more profits and to be profitable and to get more money. So it's that on its own may disqualify it from quite a lot of what some religions would consider a, a troubling, possibly troubling situation if your goal as a business, at least in America, number one, there are definitely businesses that do great with this and that really help the community and really help people. But then you have the other businesses that, oil companies, ones that seem, are the most out there in the public eye for organizations that do what they want and get several millions and millions of dollars in subsidies while being the most profitable business on the planet. So there are reasons for those, whatever they are. However, they got the legislation passed. Just throwing the freedom of speech at a couple senators, and I'm sure that the votes go the way you like it. So it's just very interesting to see that. Well, we've known that even with the chief justices, it's the same as the senator in the House. The decisions always follow big business. So it's just very, very this conundrum here of, what you would consider a biological imperative in some cases, but if nothing else, just what I'd imagine to be a very personal, in the house type of issue. Imagine in the 60s or the 50s or 60s talking in public about birth control. The it's no longer taboo. So I guess this is a natural progression. If it's okay to discuss in the common space, then maybe it's an issue that should be addressed in this arena. And I don't know. It just seems to be going that route of. I'm sure that there are several companies that, with this being deemed okay, will be hearing or not hearing much about how they're going to take advantage of that also. And if it's a, I don't see why they would stop it there with it just being a religious belief that it would go against. And excuse me, if this company says that, well, we choose to believe this, and it does say specifically for if against the organization's religious beliefs, but if a company says, well, we don't believe that we should have to pay for this type at all, ever, no prior authorizations, no overrides, no no step therapy, no anything, but just no, we just don't want to cover it. They could have a list of things they don't want to cover, so that even with limit, okay, I know I can't work for that company because I require that medication, to live. So now you're setting a biological structure to job availability. That's interesting. That is interesting. I mean, that is pretty. I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know if I can actually say this. I should just go ahead and watch it. But that seems like Gattaca. I mean, your genetic makeup determines your career and path outside of just the opportunities available to where you're born, or demographics of school availability, and this school failed all these years and things of that nature. So it's just a very interesting a religiously pursued, maybe ethical, eugenics perspective. It's, I suppose, uh, you know, could be a little bit of everything. It could be less impacting than I expect. Maybe, maybe after the first push, it won't really have that big of a result. Maybe most companies, or the better companies that are said to work for, maybe they will just ignore it. Maybe it's hey, a couple years later, once the hype dies down, it just starts to filter out little by little. Maybe it's one of those maximizing profit initiatives that starts to spread. I can imagine several organizations that just, wow. I mean, why? All I can see is it saving the organization money, which means that there's no reason for them not to pursue it, regardless of the, you know, persons affected. I mean, a lot of the things with these companies nowadays is that because there's such a shortage of jobs, quote unquote, I guess, and the difficulty in finding a job, a new job, or just maintaining one that will actually get you on a regular payroll and not have you contractor, long-term, temporary, so it just is very interesting, very interesting. I would love to hear what a few people think about it. I think I'm going to have somebody on here to talk about that. Someone who knows more than me, probably, because it's unfortunate is how I kind of put it, but it's apparently a no, actually, this does kind of make me feel like you could have an executive order scratching that or something like that, because that is, now we know one way that organizations can undermine this Affordable Health Care Act. The Republicans have gotten their way. They wanted to repeal Obamacare, and it's interesting because you wouldn't need to now. They found a way around it. You can have corporate privilege where they may not be, through some way, they don't have to require, maybe they believe in no medications at all. and that they won't cover any type of medical treatment, and they're all reactionary, and only things they'll cover are, a bleeding, get some leeches, or maybe you'll have to get, you know, you have to, who, actually the number one thing back in the day, I'm pretty sure it was like, ether and a bleeding. So, what if that's what the company believes? Is that next? Let's go for a bleeding. I'm gonna have to change the name of this episode to "Let's Go for a Bleeding" because maybe I won't. Maybe I won't. Oh gosh. Yeah, I won't. That sounds horrible. I'm glad I thought twice about that. But it's just very interesting because what are the limits now? Like I said, maybe it's possible for it to be solved or taken away by an executive order of some type, but this is the way around the new Affordable Health Care Act. And I wonder how far it can really stretch. So marinate on that. Thank you for stopping in. I got it out. I got a couple tabs out of the way. Hopefully I'll see you soon. Have a great week.